Okay, guys, so today or in this video, we're gonna talk about ratios. Very common topic to be evaluated in these exams. So let's see what do we have to remember or review about ratios. To start with, let's see what is a ratio, okay? Ratio, remember that it stands for like the proportion. You know, whenever you see the word ratio, I want to think of proportion. That is kind of, I always have in my head when they give me a ratio is like how the elements in a group, you know, how elements are distributed. Okay, so for example, if they give me that we have, I don't know, a situation, let's say, get ready, and at get ready, we know that, so let's write down here, at get ready, we know that we have women and we have men, and let's say that we have, I don't know, 21 women and we have 7 men, okay? And they ask us to find the ratio of men to women, okay? So what is the idea of ratio? Is the proportion. For me, the way you define ratio is gonna be a fraction, okay? It's gonna be a fraction. What fraction? Whatever they mention first, divided whatever they mention second. And here, pay attention, the order is super important. So the order is important. And I like this expression. You have some alternative ways of expressing ratios. In this case, very specific case of men to women, some people will write men colon women. Some others will write men to women, literally. Some others will write men over women. Now, this is the one that I'm talking about because the other two, they look pretty and everything, but in order of mathematics, they don't help me that much. So when it's a fraction, I know that fraction will be a number, and depending on the exercise, that will be very useful, okay? So retaking our example, again, ratio of men to women, whatever they mention first. In this specific case, what is what they mention first? They mention first men, right? So men is going to be on top. To women is what they mention second. So the women is going to be below. So men to women is 7 over 21. Still, this is not a ratio, okay? Because you always want to simplify this to the minimum expression. So actually your ratio will be, I can divide this by 7, it will be 1 over 3. So this will be the ratio of men to women in this specific case. And what it's saying here is that if I take all the elements here, how can I distribute them? I can distribute them in groups of 4, you know, check it out, 1, 3, so I will have here minimum 4 people, right? So I can distribute it in the following one, in groups of 4 for every man that we have, okay? In that group, there are or there will be 3 women, okay? That's what I'm saying. The ratio indicates me how do I distribute the elements. If I have 4 people, there is ratio indicate me for 1 man, I have 3 women, okay? Now, let's move to the next topic, because the ratios is an indicator of how will I distribute these elements, but they do not really indicate me what is the total number of elements, okay? Meaning, let's say that I have this scenario. I have the scenario of men to women, and they tell me that this ratio, well, the one that we got before, it was 1 to 3, right? So for me to be able to maintain this ratio, again, we already know that I must have minimum 4 people. But I don't know if in reality I have 4 people and I have 1 man and 3 women. I can have 16, 40, any matter. Whenever you give the ratio, something that you know, that we know, is that in this specific case, I can have 4 people. That is the minimum to maintain the ratio, okay? The minimum to maintain the ratio. But it is important for us to know that it can be any multiple or the total, you know, the actual total can be any multiple of that number, okay? Any multiple. So let's try to get this example, or let me create an example. I took some notes here so I can guide myself. So let's start with this specific one. We said we have the ratio of 1 to 3. So we need 4 people minimum. But in reality, let's say that we don't have 4 people. Let's say that we have, I don't know, here 16 people. So what we do? As this thing is proportional, what I want you to start thinking is, what do you do to the 4 so you can make it or transform it into 16? So if you take 4, how do you transform 4 into 16? You multiply it by 4, right? So to maintain the proportion, to maintain the ratio, that means that every little element here you need to multiply by 4 as well. So by doing so, what we will find is that if you have 16 people, the actual number of people will be 4 women and 12 men. Okay? So we always, or they will always give us something where we can compare, okay? We can compare the total or the number of men or the number of women, and from there we can build and construct the ratio, okay? Let's try to give another example for you to know what I mean. They tell me that the ratio of students to teachers might be 5 to 2, okay? And then they tell me, in the school, you know, this is the ratio, and they say the school has a total of, I don't know, 3,000 students, okay? And we want to find how many teachers are there. How many teachers are there, how many teachers the school has, okay? So let's go with the same principle. Here what we're doing is that this 5 that is supposed to represent the students is not 5 in reality. They're telling me that this 5 in reality is a 3,000, right? So we start thinking, how do we transform the 5 into 3,000? I will say that we would like to multiply by 6, is 30, so by 600, so this thing times 600, right? So if I want to maintain the ratio, so I should multiply this guy by 600, and by doing so, we get that the total number of teachers will be now 1,200. So that's the whole operation. If we were required to know the total number of people in that school, will be teachers and students, so it will be 4,200, okay? That's it. They always give us something, the ratio, and they give us an actual number, an actual value for us to compare, and we just need to find that factor of multiplication because we need to maintain the proportion, and that means that we need to find that number and multiply every little element by the very same number, okay? I hope that is clear, because we're going to move to the next topic. That is, here we have gotten to study ratios of whenever we have 2 elements, 2 categories, better. But the ratios can be for more, can be for 4, 5, 6, 20 elements, okay? But the idea will be the same. So let me show you here an example. Let's say that here we're going to have a fruit salad, okay? And the fruit salad says that we have, I don't know, bananas, and we have apples, and we have kiwis, and we have, I don't know, strawberries. In the ratio, you know, in the ratio of, and this ratio can be 3 to 2 to 7 to 4, okay? So how will this work? If I write it down or I put it into how to find the ratio, how to work in the ratios, what they're telling me is that I have here bananas, I have here apples, I will have here kiwis, I will have here strawberries, and they're telling me that the minimum number of elements, remember that when they tell me about ratios, they are giving me the minimum number of elements that I must have in the fruit salad, so this ratio complies. So I need to have minimum 3 bananas, 2 apples, 7 kiwis, and 4 strawberries, okay? Again, this is something that I always do automatically. How many fruits do I have total? So I have 3, 2, that's 5, and this is gonna be 11, so I have 16 fruits in total, right? And from there, we can start building any exercise. Say they tell us, in reality, okay, this is the ratio, but in reality, it was a very big fruit salad, and in reality, I have 15 bananas. So these bananas, they tell me that 15. So they tell me that this 3 is not actually a 3, it's a 15. Same as we were doing before, our question is, by which number do I need to multiply 3 so I can transform it into a 15? I hope that you see clearly that your answer is going to be times 5, right? So that means that to maintain the ratio, I need to multiply all elements by 5, and that will give me the actual scenario. So that means that if in reality I have 15 bananas, that fruit salad in reality has 10 apples, 35 kiwis, and 20 strawberries, okay? And the big total, again, if you add all these fruits, or you simply take 16 and multiply by 5, so you now have a total of 80 fruits, okay? So check out that is the same principle. You get the ratio, they give you the actual number of a certain element or the actual total number. You find that factor or that number by which you need to multiply, and to maintain the ratio, you multiply every term or every element by the same number. So you can maintain the ratio, and right there you can start giving your responses, okay? We have one more scenario that we need to analyze, and that scenario is, okay, how do we combine ratios? This is, and let me try to explain this by giving you an example. We are in a school, and let's say that in the school, the ratio of students to teachers is 5 to 2. They can also tell us that, then again, the ratio of teachers to administrators is gonna be it's gonna be 3 to 7. And the question is for us to be able to find what is the ratio of students to administrators. Okay? So how do I solve, or how do I attack these exercises? I always like to create kind of a table, okay? And in the table, what I will do is I put in the middle, I always put the element that they have in common. If you check these two ratios, I have students and teachers, and this one is teachers and administrators, so I will leave teachers in the center. So I will analyze it like students, I will have teachers right here in the center because it's the element in common in the two ratios, and administrators. What they're telling me is that here I have 5 students, so I will have 2 teachers. In the second ratio, check out where I will write it down. The second ratio tells me that I have 3 teachers and 7 administrators. So what I will try to do is to combine these two ratios. How do I do that? First, I will find the common multiple between 3 and 2. 2 and 3, okay? So that common multiple, the least common multiple, will be 6, right? Already found it. So after having found that, I'm going to analyze ratio by ratio. So first, I will forget about this guy here. Let's forget it. I'm always going to think of 5 and 2. And the question is, how do you transform these 2 into a 6? Your answer will be, well, I multiply by 3, right? So that means that this 5 you also need to multiply by 3, and that will indicate that if these 2 in reality, these 2 teachers in reality are 6, so the students are not 5. In reality, you will have 15 students, right? That's the very first step. That is kind of what we are used to do. Now, let's think about the second ratio, okay? So for us to think or analyze what happened in the second ratio, we will forget now about the first one. So this doesn't exist. We will always only pay attention to the ratio of 3 to 7 between teachers and administrators. And it's going to be the same process. How do you transform the 3 into 6, so you multiply by 2, meaning that this element you need to multiply by 2 as well. If we do that, that means that this 7 is not a 7 anymore. This 7 should become a 14, right? And that's it. This scenario that you have here below the line, This is the minimum scenario, okay, that we must have to maintain the ratios. In this school, we need to have minimum 15 students, minimum 6 teachers, and minimum 14 administrators for the ratio to comply. So this thing finds the minimum scenario, okay, to maintain both ratios, okay? So both ratios comply. That's gonna be the one. Now, with these numbers, we can answer the question. What was the question? What is the ratio of students to administrators? So the ratio of students to administrators will be, I will have minimum 15 students and 14 administrators for this ratio to comply. This will be the answer to that specific question. Now, the same variation. They can ask you, this is and this is the ratio, but in reality, you don't have 6 teachers. In reality, what you have is, I don't know, 66 teachers. So they tell us that in reality, the number of teachers is 66. So, another question, how do you transform 6 into 66? Well, I'm multiplying by 11. So that means that this guy you will want to multiply by 11, and this guy you want to multiply by 11 as well. So, oops, big numbers. So let's do it here quickly. 15 times 11, it will be 165. So this thing will be 165 students. And this guy very low will be 154 administrators. So right there we'll find our answer, or if they're asking the total number of students, or the total number of administrators, or the total number of people in the school, if that is the case. So that is the step-by-step approach. These kind of exercises, when you need to combine 2 different ratios, not that common in the SATs or the ACT, but it is something that you can deal with in the GRE or GMAT. So pay close attention if you are taking either of these 2 exams.